So, as promised, we divided The Office into two parts because I really wanted to make sure all of the characters were covered. And so, without further ado, this is Color Palettes for The Office Part 2. So, the next character that we're going to do in this Part 2, I'm going to start with the infamous Kevin Malone, played by Brian Baumgartner. And so, it's interesting because Brian Baumgartner is a warmer summer. He looks amazing in these cool olive greens, these plums, these burgundies, all of those colors look amazing on a warm summer. So he's right in there with John Krasinski. The next character is Oscar Martinez, the accountant, and he was played by Oscar Nunez. And it's interesting because in the show, the character Oscar, he's very linear and logical and very straightforward. So right off the bat, I assumed that he was going to be some type of winter. However, I looked very closely at his features and what colors he responded to, and he's actually an autumn. And I say this because Oscar has very unconventional features and he looks really great in prints and patterns, which is something not typical in a winter. So next up, we have Karen, who was played by Rashida Jones. And Karen is Jim's ex-girlfriend before he gets together with Pam. And her purpose on the show is to kind of be a foil for Pam. And so when I looked at Rashida Jones and her features and her voice, her mannerisms, all of it puts her in the autumn season. She's very much an autumn. She looks amazing in these warm and rich colors. And she looks incredible in rich golds when she wears gold jewelry. So, in my opinion, Rashida Jones is an autumn. Next up, we have Jan, who is first written into the show as kind of Michael Scott's uptight boss and supervisor, and she's very corporate and professional and uptight. But as the seasons progress, she becomes a bit unhinged and a bit neurotic, and I think the actress Melora Hardin really plays Jan's journey very well. I'm always drawn to the screen when she's on it. And it was interesting because Melora Hardin is a spring. She's very vibrant. She has very radiant and warm features. She looks amazing in corals when I look at photos of her. And she looks really incredible in different shades of blue because her eyes are very blue. And when someone has blue eyes, it usually leads the person to having a lot of blues in their palettes because it's emphasizing that eye color. So in my opinion, Melora Hardin is totally a spring. Next up, we have Toby Flenderson from HR, played by Paul Lieberstein. And Toby is a really interesting character because he's sort of this introverted and weird HR guy, and I think his character just adds so much to the show, especially his antagonistic relationship with Michael Scott. I would actually say that Michael Scott is more antagonistic than Toby, but their relationship is really interesting to see play out. And so it was actually really puzzling to do this palette because at first I thought that Paul Lieberstein was a spring because of his really light features. But then as I was building the palette, the spring colors just didn't make sense for him. And I noticed other things. He has very unconventional features. A lot of springs kind of have that classic boy next door, girl next door kind of look, and he doesn't have that. So it made me think that he's more of an autumn type. So when I tested the autumn colors, they worked, but he's a softer autumn. So he's not going to be super vibrant on the autumn spectrum. The autumn spectrum can really range in colors. So some autumns are very, very vibrant and they can wear colors like bright orange. That's not the case here. The colors here are very muted, and actually, he's one of the few characters on the show that dresses kind of within his color palette in a way, because he's dressed in this these kind of muted earth tones. And it's the same thing with Dwight. So I think that's a very interesting thing to note in terms of the costume choices on The Office. Next up, we have Stanley Hudson, played by Leslie David Baker. And there isn't really a lot of photos of Leslie David Baker outside of his role of Stanley. So it was actually a little bit hard to do. But from what I could see and what I could gather, he's an Autumn. He's a darker Autumn, and he can handle more vibrant colors. Again, like I talked about with the scale of Autumn, some of the colors can be very muted, and some of the colors can be very vibrant. This is a case where he falls on the vibrant end of Autumn. And I think that he, in the show, dresses very uptight because he's playing an uptight salesman, but when you take him out of that element, he looks amazing in these autumn colors. And so that's his palette. The last palette I did for The Office is Amy Ryan, who plays Holly Flax. And in the show, Holly Flax is Michael's love interest and later his wife and person he ends up with. And it's very interesting because Amy Ryan is completely a spring. And she's a spring because she has this approachability and she has a wide grin and she has a very golden kind of radiant quality about her. And a lot of springs have that golden and radiant quality about them. They are almost hypnotic in that sense. Springs have a lot of charm, and Amy Ryan is very charming. So there was really no other season that I could put her in. And so that's her palette. Thank you everyone for watching. This was The Office Part 2. And I hope you all enjoyed looking at the palettes. I certainly enjoyed making all of these palettes for this wonderful cast. And I hope you all like and subscribe. And please leave a comment. And we welcome requests for series, shows, movies, even books, and all kinds of things. So just make a request and we'll see what we can do. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we will be doing a different series next week.